small towns to big cities and everywhere in between. We're covering the great things that are happening right now in the USA. This is Positively America with Ernie Anastas.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Ernie Anastas, and I'm so glad that you're here. Okay, there's no question. We've been living in challenging times, but really, when you look back through history, most generations had their share of trouble and trials as well. Now, on this show, we believe that being positive starts with changing your perspective on how you see things. If you believe that something is negative, then probably will be, and vice versa. So challenge that negativity by embracing the mindset of a fixer and a doer. And we can apply that practice to our relationships too. It's a great topic. My first guest today is not your average therapist. She is a clinical social worker who can diagnose and treat emotional disorders, but she has some unique ideas on how to change one's behavior. Looking forward to hearing more from our Kristen Gingrich joining us right now. Hi, Kristen, how are you?
Hi, Ernie, how are you?
We're doing great. You know what? We hear a lot about you thinking that you are different. You say that I have a different approach to it. What is that?
A lot of times with therapy, right, we think therapy is done in an office. And what I've done is I've kind of taken it to social media. Now, while social media is not therapy, what I've done is I've broken down that wall of education and allowed that to flow into social media and flow out into the world where people have much more access to it. Breaking down this idea that a therapist is like this square box, and instead showing that we are people.
Okay, so what kind of feedback do you get? I mean, how does this work? I like this a lot.
It varies. There are definitely people out there who think that social media is not a place for therapists to be. And then there are people out there who are so thankful that we are talking about these things. We are normalizing talking about mental health. We're normalizing talking about struggles. The last 2 years have been hard. And here we are talking about them and normalizing it. And a lot of people are loving that.
Well, we're talking about relationships. That's a big topic. I'm sure you hear a lot about. How do we get into a good, healthy relationship? Whether, it's romantic or whether it's business or whatever it happens to be. Good relationships. How do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, good relationships take time. A lot of times it takes identifying and learning what healthy relationships look like, that those red and green flags in those relationships. We want to look for things that are solid. We want to look for things like communication, that they communicate openly, their words match their actions, that when we're in a relationship with a person, whether again, friendship, platonic, a coworker, that we're feeling respected, that we're feeling heard, that we're not scared of that relationship.
That's right.
And a lot of times we learn those relationships when we're young.
When we're
and
young,
so
you're right.
A lot of times how we build relationships is based off of what we've learned a relationship is when we're a child.
Absolutely, no question about it. So let me ask you something. When you're in a good relationship, you can feel it, right? It's instinctive. And when you're uncomfortable with it, there are some things that you can do, some decisions you can make. Stay in it, try to make it better, or maybe just get out, right? Sometimes that's the answer.
It is, and sometimes that's the hardest decision to come to. When you get to a point in a relationship where you're like, this is not serving me anymore. This relationship is toxic. This relationship is harmful to my physical health, my mental health, my emotional health. Sometimes that's a really hard decision to come to say, I can't be in this relationship anymore. Again, whether romantic and you have to end a romantic relationship or step away from a friendship, or even end, for example, a toxic work environment and say, this is no longer serving me.
Yeah, you just have to really understand it, know it, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with getting out of that relationship and moving on. I think that's a healthy way to look at it. You do so many wonderful things. We enjoy, reading about you. I read about you in a magazine, and you're really making a great connection now with social media. I'm going to ask you something. This program is about positivity, and you've got a perspective. You communicate with a lot of people. What do you think is great about our country? What's really good? Really great about America?
I think the ability to have conversations, and that freedom to have those conversations and even those hard conversations. The ability that mental health and things like that are talked about so much more in our country than in other countries. It's not shamed. It's not hid under a blanket somewhere pretending like it doesn't exist. In the last especially 2 years, there's been a huge push around talking about these things.
That's a great point that you make, and it's so important. Get it out there, talk about it, be more open and honest about relationships. Thank you so much. All right, Kristen, thanks for being a guest.
Thank you.
Coming up next here, we'll be speaking with a man who is both a doctor and a chef. Only one in 22 in the entire country. Great stuff when we come right back, right here. Okay, Positively America is back, and who doesn't want a little good news, right? Okay, my next guest is a trailblazer in the field of culinary medicine. He's both a doctor and a trained chef. Amazing stuff. Combining his culinary talents with cutting-edge medical expertise, evidence-based insights, he is forcing a new approach to healthy living. His name is Michael Fenster, and we want to welcome Dr. Chef Mike.
Thanks, Ernie. Thanks so much for having me.
What an interesting combination. You are a cardiologist and a professional chef. You have to tell me just how you decided to follow both paths.
Well, you know the old saying, right? The way to somebody's heart is through their stomach. It turns out that that's literally true as well. But all joking aside, when we look at the history of medicine, it really involves food for centuries. Some of the first cookbooks were actually written by physicians going back to ancient Greece. So this food health connection is really part of our human civilization and society.
So what makes your approach to the way we eat and cook so different? I mean, you have a unique style and a real interesting approach to doing it. A lot of people would say, I find this interesting. Tell me a little bit more about it, please.
Sure, Ernie. It's really based upon our relationship with food. As a chef, I'm all about food and enjoying it, and it's so important. I mean, just like we were talking about, food is really social currency for the human being, and that's what we are. And we are complex beings, and we relate to food in complex ways, and it's so much more than just the nutrients. So we're really looking at our relationship with food and how that affects our health. And one of the other things that's really different about our approach is we've moved on beyond calories and nutrients, and we're really looking at the processing of the food, because that really seems to be the critical determinant whether something that nature made for us helps and heals us and all the little wee minions in our gut that are so essential for our health, or it's an ultra-processed offering that starts to correlate with the development of being at risk for inflammation.
Yeah, not always easy to do that, as you know, right? Now, whether you're in the market of doing all these things or not, I mean, you're a restaurateur. What tips do you have? What should we really do? Read the labels? Is that enough to do? What do you do?
I got something that's even easier than the labels. Now, of course, the definition that we use when we teach the course is, got several layers to it. But a simple tip is keep it to 5 to stay alive. All you have to do is don't even read what the labels are, just count. If there's more than 5 ingredients, a lot of the studies suggest there's about an 85% risk that that's ultra processed. So if you're not sure, count the ingredients, more than 5, put it back on the shelf. That's simple.
That simple. Okay, listen, I heard that one of your favorite foods is pizza. A lot of people say, what? That's not really healthy for you, pizza. But it's all in the preparation, isn't it, right? Isn't that what it's all about?
Sure, people may recognize me from Clubhouse. I am the pizza doctor. That's me, my alias. So I absolutely love pizza. But when I make a pizza, I do it from scratch. I use a from scratch crust. My sauce is just tomatoes and salt, the topping a few slices of fresh mozzarella, little basil. Absolutely no ultra processed ingredients there. But if you order one of these industrial mass produced pizzas, it is ultra processed from start to finish. And that's why in culinary medicine, a pizza is not just a pizza.
Okay, well, I got it. So, Dr. Chef Mike, I know you have a great 3-point takeaway to make for easier people to remember. Let's just talk about what we have to look for in the market, reading the labels. 3 quick things for us to remember.
Well, when we look at these ingredients, where they come from, ask 3 quick questions. how was it bred? What was it fed? Where was it led? So how was it bred? Is this organic heritage tomato, or is this a conventional GMO monocrop? What was it fed? Is this a wild Alaskan salmon, or is this, a fillet from God knows where fed who knows what? And where was it led? So is this a blue cheese fresh from the cheesemaker, or is this some conglomeration of day-glow orange bits and bobs, that's labeled a pasteurized, processed American cheese food because it doesn't even contain enough ingredients to be labeled by law real cheese?
Okay, I like that. We ask our experts a personal note. What keeps you going? You're a busy guy doing a lot of things. What keeps you upbeat and positive?
Every meal I have, the food is delicious. And that's what culinary medicine is about. I mean, it's about being excited about what you're going to eat and who you're going to share it with. I get excited about where I eat, what I eat, with whom I eat. And it just keeps me going. And I love sharing food, creating food, and also knowing that when we follow the culinary medicine principles, I'm really practicing medicine and giving something that's going to sustain, nurture, and provide people health and wellness.
I love it. So good food makes you happy, and then it makes other people happy as well. Great information, Dr. Chef Mike. I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ernie. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a blast. Thank you.
We need more positive news. Thank you, Ernie, for Positively America. Yay!
And here we are. We are back now with more on Positively America. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our show this week. We love having you here. It's so important to stay on top of your health. Going to the doctor and the dentist regularly can really help you avoid serious problems down the road. I know you hear that all the time, but you know what? It's true. So here to walk us through the health test checklist is a doctor who has a reputation for staying on the cutting edge of new advancements in her field. She regularly contributes to national news networks and writes a monthly column for Women's Health magazine. Our guest is also featured in many leading professional journals for her work. All right, the doctor is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Here she is, Dr. Keri Peterson. Hi, Keri. How are you?
Ernie, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Nice to have you on board. Keri, I just had my annual physical. Everything's okay, thank goodness. And I know what's really important. It's the numbers. They always talk about the numbers, right? That's on the checklist. Start with that.
The first number you should know, Ernie, is your body mass index, and that is your weight in relationship to your height. And it really is a rough estimate of your body fat content. So that lets us know whether you're at risk for any weight-related diseases like diabetes. The next number is your blood pressure, and we want that below 120/80 because if it's elevated, that is going to set you up for kidney disease, stroke, and heart disease. The next number is your cholesterol. We want that low because, again, that's another risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And then the last number is your blood sugar. And that's typically screened for starting in your 30s, and it's going to tell us if you're at risk for developing diabetes.
Okay, those are really important numbers, and we know that if they find something, whatever it is, there's medication for it, there's treatment, which is good, get it early. Okay, let's talk about something else now on the checklist. The screening tests, there's a bunch of those, right?
Yes. And it is very age dependent. So if we would just go decade by decade, in your 20s and your 30s, there are 4 things to be aware of. As a female, you need to have your pap smear done by age 21 to screen for cervical cancer. The next thing that everyone needs to do is look at their body for moles, look for any changes each month. And if you see changes, bring it to the attention of your dermatologist. And then the next thing is going to be your tetanus shot. Typically, we get it at age 18, and by 28, it's expired. You should get it every 10 years. And then the other thing for your 20s and 30s is going to be your thyroid levels, and that's for women that we check in your 30s.
That's all good. All very good. Okay, now we're going to go 40s, 50s, and 60s? Try that. Okay, let me hear what you have to say.
Sure. So for age 40, that's when we get our first eye exam, and we want to screen for glaucoma at that age. And also at age 40 is when women should start getting their annual mammograms to screen for breast cancer. And that's the American Cancer Society's guidelines. And then the next and last thing for your 40s is your colonoscopy. And we want to start that at age 45 and get it every 10 years.
Good stuff. Now, I think it's really important to reiterate something. Why? Why is it important for us to do this? And from a doctor's perspective, what have you seen? What difference does it make if you do these things?
It's absolutely critical. I mean, during the pandemic, a lot of people have missed their physical. And the reason we do a physical is to screen for many health conditions because, as you mentioned earlier, if you find it early, number one, treatment is more effective. And number two, we can hopefully ward off any health problems at all. And just to mention very quickly, in your 50s, I do want to make note that that is when we start prostate cancer screening. And unless you're African American, you're going to start that in your 40s. And then in your 60s, that's where we screen for osteoporosis with a bone density. That's when you need your pneumonia vaccine. And that's when eye exams become much more frequent to screen for macular degeneration. So as you can see, I mentioned so many tests. You did. I mean, there's a lot there, and we should put it on our checklist and make sure we do it. Preventative care, we know, is also important. That's a big part of it. Dr. Peterson, I know that you follow a lot of things that are happening, and you're right on top of the news and things that are important to all of us. I'm going to ask you my question, and I'd like to put this out. What's great about America? What really is good about our country? What do you like? Well, for me as a physician, it is access to amazing healthcare and specialists who are so knowledgeable. We have access to so much information and also access to vaccines. I'm a very strong advocate for vaccines, and I think the turnover for even things like the monkeypox vaccine is happening very quickly, and I'm just very grateful for that. Good information, and that's something that we all have to follow, okay? Take care of our health, the most important thing. We all know that. Yes. Dr. Keri Peterson, it's always a joy, always a pleasure. Keep up doing your good work. Come back on the show, because I know a lot of people have made notes, little checklist notes, right? And now you're going to help a lot of people. Thanks. Nice to see you, Keri. You too, Ernie. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Positively America. I'm Billy Floyd. Today, we're asking America, do you practice what to say before an important call?
I do not.
And how come you don't?
I just feel more comfortable just kind of going off the cuff, and maybe I should sometimes because I definitely trip over my words. But I don't know. That's not something I ever thought about doing.
I'm team winging it too. I'm with no. How about you? What do you got?
I do.
Okay.
I just like to have an idea of what I'm going to say before I say it, so I don't trip all over my words and sound, unprepared.
Yes, absolutely.
We have yes here. How about over here?
Heck yes, I do.
How do we prepare? What do you do?
Think about it in my head, and then I say it out loud a couple of times just to hear what I sound like, make sure it sounds right.
I like that. Speaking it, understanding it. What do you do?
I do the same thing. I actually think of all the positives I'm going to say in that phone call.
Nope. I wing it.
All off the top of the head?
Yep.
And you nail it every time?
No, about 70% of the time.
Always. You got to come prepared. I actually just got a new job in the past couple months, and I think if I didn't come prepared, there would have been a lot of other candidates who could have taken it, so I'm really glad I did. Yeah, I always do. Recommend it.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on the new job.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
And that's how America's feeling. We'll see you next time on Positively America. I'm Billy Floyd. All right, Billy, Asking America. I think you're having too much fun out there, but I'm glad you are. It's a great segment, and we love watching it. Okay, let's talk for a minute. One of the great lessons I've learned early in life was to be respectful of others. It came from people who really cared about me, my family. Particularly my dad made it very clear to me that we don't have all the answers. That's why it's important to listen. Yeah, someone's viewpoint and information could offer experience and knowledge that we don't have. I will never forget that. I can hear his voice right now. Listen. In my professional career, there are several people who I will never forget because they were so important to me. I trusted them. They were looking out for my best interest, and I knew that. So what I did was I listened to them, and I followed their good counsel. Now, I'm happy to say that all worked out. But let me add something to this, okay? Something equally important. Remember the person giving the advice. They can also feel very good because they managed to help you. They managed somebody else. Now, here's what I'd like you to remember. If someone's asking for help, think about how you can truly help them. Give of yourself. Take your experience, your wisdom, and share it with them. They call that a win-win situation. And that's my best advice to you.
I thank you so much for watching. I'm Ernie Anastas, and stay positive, America.